Hey everybody, welcome back in. My name is Matt, Cryptic if you prefer, and today we are finishing the overall modeling for the ODST pistol. This has been a long project, it's been a long tutorial series, so we're going to finish up. We're going to add the rest of the details on the laser sight and the flashlight, as well as the trigger and the magazine. We have a couple more little pieces to build off of that. We need the slide lock and then the slide pin. But other than that, it should be a relatively straightforward tutorial. As always, the files are in the description for the original blockout if you'd like to follow along and don't want to do the blockout. And let's get started. Okay, if you've been following along so far, this is where we're at. We've done the front muzzle, we've done the slide, and we've done the grip. Remember, keep in mind, we still need to do some cleanup on this. There's going to be a whole video on cleaning up this model. But more importantly now, the only things we really have to focus on are the trigger, these two pieces here. We are going to add a small Picatinny rail because that's a detail I feel that isn't in the original model that needs to be in the magazine. So with that said, let's get started. As always, I'm going to save this, save scene as projects, hello ODST pistol. Okay, we're going to call this accessory detailing. I'm pretty sure I spelled that wrong, so don't come after me if I did. I'm a 3D modeler, I'm not an English major. Okay, so we're gonna work on the trigger first, I'm thinking, because this is gonna be the simplest object to just go through. So we're gonna select that, show, isolate, view, select. We're gonna look at both of these. Again, super simple object. There is a bit of a difference here though that I'm looking at that needs to change. So we're going to take this, we're going to extend those out. And I think what I'm honestly gonna do is I'm gonna cut this in half. Look at this. Let's do this. We're gonna delete that face and delete this face. And then I'm just going to take this. We're going to take this, we're going to extrude just straight across, scale it to close it out. And then I'm just going to real quickly here, bridge, and bridge. Okay. Now we've got that new geometry in there. We can kind of make this look the way it needs to look. So we're going to grab this edge, we're going to pull this in. And if we look at that, especially through here, so we need that. We actually need this to... Okay, so I am noticing an issue here. When we built the grip, we didn't do this indent. So that's going to cause somewhat of an issue. Vertex. It's just... Is that not a vertex? Oh, that's the magazine. Okay. So we're going to pull these back a little bit. Or we'll pull this up. That's going to allow us to have what we want. And it gives us that dip. The only other issue here we have is the magazine's poking through. Again, not going to worry about that till we get to it. Show. Alright, show, isolate, view, select. So we've corrected the grip real quick. That wasn't a huge deal. Again, if you want to skip that, you can. You don't have to. But it does add to the realism of it. Okay. So we've got our object kind of matched through. It's actually kind of interesting if you look at this. So we're going to do something a little bit different. I was thinking bevel, but let's do it this way. Because we have this built specifically, you can tell it like dips in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just try to adjust this as best as possible. So we're following that, and then we're gonna take this edge that we have here, this faces, and we're just gonna pull it in. Going to give us that look that we're looking for, while also still maintaining the trigger itself. And I think what I want to do is, so that's not as funky, I'm going to leave that way. That gives us that nice dip, and then we have everything we need. So the next part of this is going to be matching all of this up. So we're just going to drag that back, and I'm going to take these vertexes and just pull them. And we have this. So what we need to do, we're going to add an edge loop, insert edge loop tool. We're going to pop that right there. I'm going to scale it just to seal it up and make it nice and straight. And then we're going to go and look at this. We're going to do an extrusion. Pull that extrusion in. Go to edit mesh and circularize. And then we're going to scale that right there. Try to line it up as best as you can. That way your edge flow doesn't get too jacked up. And then we'll just pull that in. Pull it out because we're just making a basic pin here. All right, cool. And there we go. That's kind of our trigger. So, oh, we do have an issue up here. Let's fix that real quick. Always be looking for issues that you can fix on the run. Obviously, some of the bigger problems you won't be able to fix immediately. But we'll go to edit mesh. Or sorry, mesh. We're gonna flip this guy. Negative. Object apply. There we go. Show isolate view selected. We want to just make sure we're still kind of flowing here. And then that is. Oh, you know what that is? Okay, hold on a second. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. We're gonna just add an edge loop. Add an edge loop. I see what happened there. So that's actually not the magazine that's poking through. It's just the chamber for the magazine. So we can just correct that really easily. And now the magazine is poking through. Okay. Perfect. Not perfect, but you know, perfect. I want to kind of adjust this. This is all part of like what we're planning today. So what we're going to do, vertex, we're going to just slightly pull that in. It's going to have a little bit of a taper on it. If you look at most magazines, they actually do have like a natural taper to them, so we're not super stressed about that. And then this part is where we're going to have some concerns here. So we want that to not be totally there. Okay. Vertex, we're going to pull this down. So this just guides along the top. We don't want it really going into the model. And then that's pretty good for our use case right now. That'll be something we clean up in the cleanup video. So isolate one more time. We're going to add our supporting edge loops, just to get this thing rolling. Okay. And this is such a simple piece, you shouldn't really be having any issues with it. That is going to be slightly problematic, but we'll figure it out here in a second. Okay. All right. Cool. Awesome. And so if we smooth that, I like what we got so far. The only thing we need to do is just add some support here so it's not pinching like it is. And there we have it. There's our trigger. So I see you selected. So that trigger now looks much better. Looks like it actually belongs in the object itself. Matches perfectly with the reference. So awesome. We are now free to move on to the magazine. Okay, so we're going to move on to the magazine now. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's kind of also pretty basic. Like I said, we saved a lot of these basic parts for last. So we're gonna look at this. Text. Let's see if this will let me do this without selecting. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna take these top ones and pull them in slightly. If you ever look at like a real pistol magazine, there's usually some sort of like taper up top. And then what we're gonna do as well is just pull this back a bit. Try to line that up as best as possible. And then I want to cut this in half. So we're good there. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. We're gonna treat this like it's an actual magazine. We're gonna model the portions that would exist. And so most magazines have like a little cup that cups to the bullet when it's in. It's pushed into the back and then it gets popped up by the spring. So we're good there. The other thing that we're gonna look at here is these holes. So we're gonna look at a pistol magazine, and honestly, the way I see it, it kind of matches something like this. This 9mm pistol magazine. So I think this is what I'm gonna do, honestly. I'm gonna add those two holes and then we're just gonna go from there. So the magazine itself should at some point have a little release section. So we're gonna add that here. Doing it this way will be the easiest way. Is just drop that, raise that, raise that. We're pretty good there. And then we're gonna just take that portion and sink it in. This is where that little button would actually grab, in theory. So just a little detail just to add. All right, so we're looking at the concept art. We've got two holes. So let's get those added here. And they look like they're just indentations, so that's all we're gonna focus on making them. Tools, insert edge loop. So we're gonna just add an edge loop. Right through the middle, and then two supporting top edge loops. Same thing down here. Okay. And then mesh tools, insert edge loop. I missed two of them. Okay. So we're gonna take these, and what I'm gonna do, honestly, is I'm just gonna circularize them now. Because that should just get me the result I want. And it does, which is awesome. So pull that in and call that good. So we've got our two little indents. They're there. We've got our little clip. I think what I do want to do is add like a little line up here. Mesh tools, insert edge loop tool. This is just purely for aesthetic purposes. It's not going to do anything, but it's just going to give me a nice little line to work with. Let's see. All right, we're going to delete both of these faces that are created by extra. Okay, we're good there. And then as far as the back goes, I suppose what we can do is just leave that as a texture, because looking at it, that's a lot of detail to add that could just be a texture. So I think we're going to leave it. And then I think the next thing we're going to do is mesh tools, edit mesh. We're going to mirror this guy, apply it. Okay, we're mirrored. Make sure all of our geometry looks okay. We're good. Okay. We're solid there. Now we want to move on to the bottom of this thing. So what I want to do down here is most of these, if you look at them, they're usually held together by like some sort of screw on the bottom. So we're going to take these faces here. We're going to try this. I don't know if this is actually going to do what I want it to do, but this is part of the whole process, is experimenting. So we're going to circularize those. Draw to blank on where I'm supposed to be. Okay, so that actually kind of worked to our advantage. That's fine. Just got to straighten them out because Maya can't not twist things. And then we're going to scale them. We want each one of these to match as best as possible, so scale them to about the same size. Because when you think about it, it's going to be an actual screw. So, I mean, it won't be like a physically accurate like screw, but it's going to be a screw that would go into the bottom of this pistol or this magazine. We'll do one more. This one I'm going to keep a little bit more shallow since it's an indented screw. And then the rest of this, we're just going to drag this up a bit just to feel that out. And I think we're solid. So same thing, mesh tools, insert edge loop tool. We're going to go through and support everything that we need to. Trying to do these as I go, that way I don't really have to stress about it in the end. And then we're good there. Add our support loop. Oops. Add our support loop. It's looking pretty okay. All right with that. Okay. G to repeat the tool that we've been using. Just make sure we're adding the support that we need. Don't want to lose anything, especially detail. Okay, so that's looking wonderful. And this is where we're going to want to focus too on making sure we're supporting these sharp edges, because we don't want the pistol's magazine to look too rounded. Drag that up, drag that down. Okay. All right, we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, and then we'll add some additional support up here. And then I think this might be good. Oh, right here, sorry. Can't forget about this. Don't forget about this part. Okay, so okay, 3. Okay, we're good there. Our indents are okay. They didn't get touched by any of that workflow, so we're gonna support them. I'm gonna try to do this with the least amount of lines possible, but I don't know if it's gonna let us. It might actually. Oh no, that's actually okay. All right, sweet. Isolate view selected. There we go. There's our magazine. It's in the pistol. Good to go. The next part we're going to work on here is these two guys, and then we're going to add the modeling pieces that we need to model. The only one that we are going to pre-do is we're going to do this Picatinny rail that I'm going to add here because it doesn't exist in game, but it needs to. There's a hint of it in the concept art, but it's not actually like in use. It's just kind of there as a detail piece. So, and this attaches to something. So we want to make that look as realistically grounded as possible. So we're going to add that. Okay, so now we're going to focus on this front section here. This one's going to take a little bit longer just because these require a little bit more detail than say like this stuff did. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to drag these down for a minute because they don't currently have a way to connect. There's no rail system here and there needs to be one. So we're going to add a rail. So the easiest way that I can think of to model this, we're just going to create a box. We're going to change the subdivision on it and we're just going to scale it and then pull it out. This is the base of our rail. And then what I'm gonna do is, honestly, mesh tools, insert edge loop. Just gonna create this, create a gap, and then create another one. Okay, cool. That should be all pretty similar. We're going to delete all of this now. Don't forget to cancel your tool, otherwise that'll happen too. All right, so we have our rail here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to extrude it out. And this should actually look pretty similar to what we need it to look like anyway. We're just going to have to adjust this because they are flattened on the bottom. So there's our Picatinny rail. Pretty easy. We're going to mesh, modify. We're going to center our pivot here. And then Control D this. We're going to delete those. Pop that in there. Yeah. And we're going to do the same thing a couple times. Should be still not long enough. The ODST pistol kind of has a longer barrel, so it would make sense that it has a longer rail on the bottom of it. I'm gonna just keep adding here. I think one more for good measure. Okay. Select all those, mesh, combine, and then go down here, edge, edge, merge them together, change the tolerance up, should be fine. Just make sure as you're doing this, you're not actually like creating issues. And some of these are not, you know, exactly where they need to be. Some are too close, some are too far. Not a huge deal. These are such minute details, you're not going to notice that. If you do want to use snapping, go ahead and use snapping. I just find it to be kind of a pain to work through it and do it. And we're good there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bridge this, add one division, vertex, make sure that these guys are sealed up nice and tight. G. Okay. One thing I should have done that I'm realizing now, and I'm going to tell you to do this right now because I'm going to do this the hard way and I'm just going to skip through on this video. Add your edge loops before you copy it down. I wasn't thinking, just didn't do it. I'm going to manually do it now. So the video is going to skip forward to this being done. Just make sure that you add your edge loops before you copy it across. It'll just save you a bunch of time. The one last thing that I do want to do though is we're going to add some screw plate holes. So mesh tools, insert edge loop. Actually, we're going to do mesh tools, offset edge loop. Just to make this as even as possible. Let's do this too. I can save myself a little bit of time by just pre-doing that. And we're going to do boom. That gives me what I want there. And then I'm going to put a screw here. Insert edge loop tool. I'm going to pre-do some of the stuff that I need, just because if I don't, it's going to cause me issues in the long run. So there's one screw hole, probably about the middle of the rail here. We'll do another one. Oops. Again, support where you're working. That way you don't really need to worry about it when you get here. And then we'll do one at the end here. Okay. Oh, nope. Let's see, that mesh. We're going to circularize, scale it down. Okay. Same thing over here. G. Rotate it. Scale it down. Just make sure these are as like even as possible. G. Scale it down. Okay. Now select your faces. gonna just pull it down with the extrude tool. And again, this is gonna be a shallow one. So just G up, G, pull it in, and boom, there's your screw mounts. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and go through and add all of my support. Oops. So we'll support the screw edges first. And because of the way we extruded these, we don't really need to worry about supporting the outside of them. Mainly it's just the inside that we need to worry about. And these are a pain because of the way they're shallow. Okay, there's one. Do this. Okay. And when it comes to UVing these, it's actually a really simple process to go through. So we'll get to that when we start those portions of this tutorial series. Okay, cool. So we're good there. All right, I'm gonna now go through and support all of my rails. This part of the video is gonna skip. Please don't worry, just go through, add your edge loops like you normally would if you didn't already. And I'll see you in just a moment. Okay, so I've added everything I needed to add to this. I'm going to go ahead and just smooth it. And we're looking pretty okay. Got my detail that I need. And we're gonna just attach this now. So all we're gonna do is just drag it up. This is the secondary part, so it just sits on the gun and it would be technically in real life screwed into the gun. So there we go, there we have it. All right, so now we have that nice Picatinny rail. It gives us that nice detail that we otherwise didn't really have. Now we can work on these attachments. So the first one we're looking at here is this laser sight. Pretty simple. Not going to be a whole lot of work that we have to do here. This little control panel is going to be a little bit difficult, but otherwise not too bad. So we're going to focus on these. Show, isolate, view selected. So the first thing I want to do is, because we changed this, I want to actually add a little like grabber. Tools, insert edge loop. So we're going to do this. Add those edge loops. We're going to delete half of this. Just work on one side. It's just easier that way. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually take this portion because we want that to maintain. We're going to extract it. Just pull it off. We're going to focus on this part here. So mesh tools, we're going to go insert edge loop. We're going to add our edge loop here that I want to add, so it doesn't go all the way through the model. And then we're going to just kind of pop this up. It's going to pop out a little bit. Pop that up here. This is going to rotate slightly. And then this is going to go in here. This is technically what we have that's going to go through the Picatinny rail. So what I want to do real quick is isolate these two. Oops. Select the wrong object. Show, isolate, view selected. So we're going to look at these real quick. So I want to get this as mashed up to this as possible. Right now it's not very flat, so that needs to change. Okay, we're good there. And then this needs to drop down. So we're trying to make this look like it would actually, in fact, clip onto this. So we're just going to do that. We're going to pull this down. And we're going to pull this inwards. This is going to go in. And then this entire thing, it just needs to drop down a little bit because it's a little too tall. All right. So there we go. That latch is on. Looks nice. And we can go back to actually working this. Show, isolate, view selected. Okay. So we've got our little grab edge there, and we will work this into this as we get through this. All right. So we're looking at some of the details we have here. We've got these little notches. We're gonna go ahead and just straighten that edge out real quick. And some of this, I don't know, this was just like a really weird block out, so I'm not really super stressed about it, but I do want to get those matched up now. So now we'll go up here, and we've changed this a little bit, right? The original concept no longer suits the need that we had because we had to adjust this and make this more realistically based. So we're going to match the design as best as possible. So we're going to add an edge loop, we're going to add an edge loop, we're going to add an edge loop. And Maya just crashed. It's been a while since that's happened. Oh, thank God. Okay. That's a good learning point. Maya will sometimes save a crash dump file. Don't rely on that concept actually happening all of the time. Make sure you're saving your work like I wasn't doing throughout this entire process. So we're going to save scene as. We're going to go back to our drive. We're going to save this again as accessory detailing. Save this. That way we're actually working with the accessory detailing and not that crash dump. Okay. So it's saved up to that point. So mesh tools, insert edge loop. We're just going to quickly... Actually, that doesn't even need to be added. That can just be pulled back. Okay. Okay, so we've got that. We're going to select all this, show, isolate, select. Okay. I'm not even mad that it crashed. That's a good learning experience right there. So we're going to take these and we're actually just going to pull them in a little bit. So we'll just extrude, pull it in, and then we're going to just clean this up a little. Try to make this look flat. Okay. Cool, so we have our little divots there, so we're good there. And we've got these two screw holes. At least I think they're screw holes. They look like that. I'm not really sure if they are or not. But we're gonna add them regardless. They are gonna go on this portion though, so we'll worry about that in a second here. So the next part is going to be this thing, this little gizmo gadget thing. So we're gonna go mesh tools, insert edge loop. We're going to try to just basically shape this. And we're actually gonna be moving this down, technically. So not gonna worry about that right there. Okay, we're gonna go face, vertex actually. I'm gonna pull this forward a little bit. Face. We're going to extrude this in. There we go. That can't be scaled any further. Okay, so we have our little control panel here that should kind of mesh out the way we want it to. Let's see, we're gonna go to mesh tools. We're gonna extract this. And this is where we're gonna get into some of these more advanced modeling techniques. Just because of the way this is shaped. Insert edge loop tool. We're gonna go vertex. We're gonna slightly pull that out to round that. We're gonna straighten this one just because it doesn't look right. And then we're gonna add these details that we need to add. So this portion right here, that little whatever the hell that is, that's gonna be a texture. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to add that. I think it's supposed to be like a gauge of some sort, like a gauge graphic. I'm not really entirely sure what it's supposed to be, but everything else we're gonna add. All right, so the first thing we're gonna look at is the button. So let's look at the button. So So what we're gonna do, insert edge loop, we're gonna go boom, straighten, boom, and then boom and boom. No. We want boom and boom. Okay. So we're going to take this, we're going to circularize it. Boom. Rotate that to fit that as best as possible. And just looking at it, we're going to go in. Actually, we're probably just going to come... there is a little bit of a divot. So let's just do that divot real quick here. Okay. So that's our button. And then what we're going to do is pull that out. So we're good there. And then we have this extra geometry we have to add, right? It's this like indicator onto what position you're on. So this is where this gets a little tricky. And I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. So what I can do is just add geometry. I think mesh tools. Let's try this. We're gonna do an offset edge loop. First things first, we're gonna take this, just straighten it out as best as possible. And then mesh tools, offset edge loop. And we're gonna kind of have to do the same thing here. While still trying to maintain that circle. And then we will take this, we're going to extrude it ever so slightly. And then we're going to take the front of this, we're going to scale it, and the same here. Scale it. That way we have our little indicator, which sits right outside of everything. And then we're going to add a little bit of a bump. Vertex, vertex. So keep that in mind. That is its own thing. So we have this. The problem is that if we go to extrude this and scale it, it's going to create a weird wonky shape. So we are going to have to adjust this a little bit just to get it to fit where we want it. We'll just adjust that and scale that so it equally envelopes this. Envelope. All right, I think that's pretty good. So we'll just go boom. Pull this out a little bit. Edge, 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 and edge, and edge. All right, we have all of our edges selected. We're going to bevel this slightly. We do have a weird... Oh, I missed an edge. Bevel. Just a little bit of one. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so we have that. If I smooth that, it does kind of look a little squarish. We'll correct that, but otherwise we're okay. So that's our little indicator switch button thing. Not entirely sure if that's exactly how it looks. I'm just kind of going off the image here, and it looks like it overhangs. So if you want to do it differently, go ahead, do it differently. This is your project too. You do not have to copy what I'm doing. All right, so the next thing is we've got a little dial above this thing, which is going to be, I think, just an extrusion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to vertex this, just scale that, just make that as straight as possible. Okay, so we're good there. And then we're going to pull this in. Scale it a little bit. This is kind of this is like a dial of some sort. So we're gonna pull it all the way out. Pull, scale, pull, scale, pull, and scale. And then, oh. So you've got that like nice dial look to it. Let's make sure it's actually kind of circular. Okay, that's good. We got that piece there. Bad. We are going to have to play with some edge looping and add some geometry to this, but otherwise it's looking okay so far. We're gonna have to add a lot of it. Okay. Cool, so looking at that, the only other thing we need to do is this extra dial. So mesh tools, this is where this kind of sucks. But what I'm gonna do is this goes all the way up here. And does it go all the way down? It doesn't really go all the way down. So I'm going to pull this in. We're gonna take this entire edge, straighten it. Just make sure that edge is straightened too. Same thing there. I like to just go through and make sure these are all as straight as they can be. And then what we want to do is kind of just adjust this a little bit if we can. We really don't have much movement room there, so we're not going to bother with it. I'm going to pull this inwards. This is going to be that secondary dial. Drop that guy in there. And scale it a little bit. Same process. Pull it out. Pull it out. These don't have to be amazingly perfect. It's going to look just fine when you scale it. Sometimes that scale function also stops working properly, so I just want to do that manually there. Okay, so we've got that. That's looking fine. It's got some issues that we need to correct, so let's work on fixing those. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. The other thing that's going to be important to notice is that this is only on one side of this. So on the other side of the model, it's just going to be a blank plate. So that is going to add a piece of this that we haven't really worked with yet necessarily. So we're going to have to establish what we're going to need to do with that. But I'm just adding support where I can to make sure I get this as close to where I need it to be as possible without adding any more extra edge loops to this that I need to. Because I want to maintain this shaping as much as possible. So far, it's looking okay. The only issue I have now is that I can't really smooth that. Because if I do, we get this weird looping. And I'm not sure if there's an easy way to fix that necessarily. Aside from adding the edge loops that I need to add. So let's try this. Insert edge loop. This may or may not just create a nightmare for me. It does give me what I want. So that's good. Just add these supports here. There is this divot, do not forget about it. Get inside there. Okay, keyscape 3. So we have that. The little control panel's done. Okay, so we have this. So what I'm gonna do too, this is where we're gonna kind of have to cheat this. So we're gonna do an edit mesh or a mesh mirror. We're gonna leave that there. This is gonna be important because we need to actually close this off entirely. In fact, I think what I'll do right now is I'm just gonna go here. Object. Let's see. Edge. I'm just gonna bridge it now. Add a single division and then just merge these now, just to get this taken care of and out of the way. All right, so that's sealed up, and then we can move this back into the model. We didn't change a whole lot, aside from the fact that we added a crap ton of edge loops that we now have to deal with. So now we get to figure out where we want to terminate all of these. And that's going to be somewhat difficult. I'm actually thinking what I might do, in all honesty, is just delete this. And then I'm just going to fill this. We're going to try something here. I don't know if this is necessarily going to do what I want it to do, but it's kind of one of my only options here. We're going to bridge this. One division. We're going to just make this a solid piece again. Oops. Why is that doing that? Oh, my bad. Okay. All right, so we've got this. We're good there. So now we're going to combine these two. Mesh. Combine. And then we're going to start pinning. So this is where we have to get creative. Not so much so with all of them, but with a good portion of them. And we want to make sure that when you're adding an edge loop to this, or you're adjusting an edge loop, that you're mirroring on the top and the bottom. Otherwise, you're going to get some weird, your loops aren't going to run through the model properly. Because now, if I go Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, I can just drag a single one here. And then we can just merge this. And same thing up here. Merge that. Okay, so that seals that. That seals the deal there. So the more important and more annoying parts of this are the fact that we're going to have a bunch of edge loops running through the front of this now. So, Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop Tool. What we're going to do is we're going to do this, and then I'm going to take that and scale it flat, because I don't want to deal with any of this weird geometry running through this anymore. And then the same thing, Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. Once you scale one, they generally follow the same path. And we didn't connect that edge, so let's do that real quick. So we'll link that there, link that there, link that there, link that there. And this just kind of allows you to pre-plan and work with your model. Separating objects from the model is kind of a nice way of just working with a piece without completely destroying your model. It's a non-destructive workflow, and then you'll just go through and add your support where you need it. Okay. And then we've got a couple down here to add to. So Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. So we got the same thing kind of going on here. We got this weird, like, warped. Okay, so Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. And so we'll just fix that where we can. Escape. Just merging the rest of this together. These were all created with the last edge loop that we did. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find these. There we go. Okay. Same thing here. And same thing here. That one's already merged. That one's merged. Merged, merged, merged. And I think we're good. So that should form no holes. And it doesn't. And it looks solid. It looks like it belongs there on that piece of geometry. So we've added it. We've got our tools in there. We're kind of good to go there. Okay, so we've got the details there that we needed. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of match sizing again. So we're going to take this. I'm going to grab these verts and I'm going to pull it out. And then we're going to just add these circles here. I think they're just divots. But I guarantee they're probably on both sides. So that's what we're working with here. That. And I think what I want to do, honestly, is I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to deselect everything back here, and I'm going to allow this to go up a bit to create that, because this is where I want that screw. And we're going to circularize all of these. Modify, mesh, circularize. And then I wish you could probably, yeah, you can't do that. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna adjust them as we need. Adjust them as we need. Try to match them on either side. We would normally be working in like a separate piece. We would be working with like symmetry, but because this is no longer a symmetrical object, we're not doing that. So we're just gonna divot these in. And boom. So we have this. This is our gun. This is everything we've been working on. The problem is now we need to add the lens to this laser sight, which could be problematic. I'm hoping it's not going to. So I'm going to go to Mesh Tools. We're going to go to Offset Edge Loop Tool. There it is. We're going to go bam right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a bunch of these faces here that I feel like would make up the lens, and I'm going to circularize them. And it turned out perfect, actually. So this is one thing that I've learned over the years, is that as you're working on this, do circles last. It's kind of important because it's going to allow you to get that shape that you want without actually destroying your geometry. Okay, Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop, because at this point, at this point, the only thing we have to do now is extrude this and add some edge loops. So that's what we're gonna do. And if you look at it, it kind of comes out. So it comes out, there's a little ring of sorts. And then we're just gonna add that ring in there, and I can just add that later. And then it bevels inward. Oh. When you're scaling, sometimes with all of these faces like this, it will get a little wonky. Maya doesn't really handle that well sometimes. So a tool you can use is just hit extrude and then cancel the extrude and then scale the faces manually. Or you can hit this world tool as well. This also works. All right, pull that in. And we're just gonna drop that all the way in. And we have our laser sight. So that's that piece. If we smooth this, we can see what issues we need to correct. Honestly, not a whole lot. So we're gonna just go through Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop Tool. We shouldn't have any issues doing this. Just add those support loops where you need them. We're not adding anything across the geometry that's going to affect that circle. That's kind of the goal here, right? We don't want to adjust anything that's going to trash that. We want it to stay circular when we smooth it and not have any issues. So we're going to add an extra line of support here and here. And then we're going to take this face, select that, extrude it inwards, and then add the support we need there too. Mesh tools, insert mesh tool. Okay. We're just going to go through this and add our supporting loops. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to support these clips, because we don't want these to lose their shape. And thankfully, none of this really touches the circles, so it's just really cool when you get through to it and you start really adding things. That sucks. That might be a problem. It might not be. Okay. Just adding those last supports. And if we smooth this, we have a beautiful looking model with very little issues. This little pinching area might be a problem. But otherwise, that's good. So we'll do show, isolate. You selected. Look at that. That's gorgeous. The only thing we didn't do... Oh, that's not gorgeous. Don't listen to me. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. We definitely didn't support this very well. So we want to make sure we do that. And that's a really weird shape. Ooh. See, and that's problematic. So it looks okay from a distance. This is going to be something that we're going to have to come through and clean up. But, actually, you know what? I have an idea. We're going to bevel it. That should give us what we're looking for the most part. Almost. There is still lack of support back here. So mesh tools, insert edge loop. If I add an edge loop here, what does this do? Okay. It squirted off for sure. And then G. So here's the other issue, right? Is if I do this, that's adding an edge loop that goes all the way through the model. How badly does that distort? You see how it adds so much distortion to this? Like, yes, it makes that look good, but at the same time, it's added distortion that we don't want. So this is going to be something we have to come back and kind of clean up. But that's okay. It's something we can easily adjust. It may even end up needing to be its own separate piece, just because the shape we're trying to get is not going to be conducive to the mesh that we're actually trying to provide. So that's okay. We can adjust that. That will be part of our cleanup stage. But we've got all of the details across the back and the front that we needed, and we're good to go to move on to the flashlight. One last thing before we start the flashlight. I did forget to add the edge loops here. So let's just add those real quick. Oh, I did it on one side, I just didn't do it on the other. Okay, much better. Cool. So we have our thing there. This is still gonna need so much work, or not a lot. This is still gonna need a lot of work, but it's okay. It's the general object that we have right now. I'm gonna push that to the cleanup phase because that's when we're gonna spend some time and actually go through here and really just clean this entire model up. Okay, so now we've got our flashlight. We're gonna do the same sort of process. All right, so now we're gonna look at the flashlight. We're gonna do the same kind of thing here. We're gonna go, we're actually gonna delete a lot of this. So let's see, we're gonna delete this face. I'm going to delete everything on the front of this because I don't want it. And then what I want to do is just go edge, select all the edges here. Okay, and then we're just going to extrude this inward. And merge all that together. That way we have this solid piece. I don't know why it's shaped that way. I don't know why I did that. Honestly, just looking at this, it was just horribly done. Okay, so what I want to do is really just clean this up, actually. I don't like the way this looks. I don't like the way I blocked it. We're going to delete that. We're going to take these and we're going to bridge them. Bridge across. We want one division. We're going to merge these edges. Just make sure they stay together. And then a lot of these edge loops, we're going to get rid of them. We're going to keep that one. That's a center edge loop. Mesh, edit mesh. Delete edge vertex. I'm going to keep it with this. So now that we look at this, we see, we made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. And if you called me on it and you didn't make those mistakes, good on you. I appreciate that you did that. If not, you're in the same boat. Let's just work through it. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just cluster that. And then really this entire thing just needs to be kind of like cleaned. Keep in mind, this is no longer to scale because we moved that down. We're just going to match this as best as possible. All right, so the first thing I'm noticing back here is we've got this divot that comes out. So we're going to take this. We're going to extrude it just like that. And just, this is where we're going to kind of try to match scale. We don't want this to be too long. So if you look at that there, that looks really nice. We'll keep that edge lining up there. The next thing we're going to have to focus on here is this. So if we go mesh tools, insert edge loop, we're going to go boom and boom. Now's a good time to save. And so now we have this. So easiest way to just do what we want to do is going to be just to grab these and delete them. And then we'll leave that there. We're assuming that we're down lower this time, so just bridge across. Yeah, I could have extruded this, but this makes a little bit more sense just because it's just a faster way of dealing with it. You don't have to adjust everything. 3. So these all stayed linked together, so we're good there. Isolate view selected. Pull this back in. I really do want to actually be working with this with the concept art in here, and I'm not. So we're going to go to object mode. Show isolate view selected. Okay, so that's better. We've got our little indent down here. The first thing we're going to focus on are these little ribs, and we're just going to insert edge loop and clean those out. So mesh tools, insert edge loop. Just match them up to the general scaling. And these kind of have like a weird little bevel to them. So we'll make sure that we get that in there. So the bottom of this thing, if we look at the part itself, has a bit of a kind of a bevel itself to it. So We're gonna pull it in. Give it that look that we've got going on here. And then we're gonna take the... Okay. We're gonna go boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. And then I don't know necessarily if those carry all the way through. I don't think they carry all the way through. I do know it would be easier on me if I just had them carry all the way through. So I might just do that. Just gonna extrude those inwards. So we've got that now. Again, kind of hard to tell. It looks like they may not. I'm not really sure, but I'm just going to take the creative liberty and do that myself. Next thing is we've got this indent here. So we do need to get that in there. I assume that's going to be on both sides. This is such a simple object. I'm not going to really worry about cutting it in half and working with it that way. All right, so we have our faces selected there. We are going to just extrude this inwards. That way we're not creating any extra edge loops. Just pull that in a little bit. Not a huge deal. And then we're just going to do one more extrude and pull it in. It's not a super deep one. And when we smooth that, it should look pretty close to it. We're going to add some support that keeps the shape as much as possible, but we're also not super worried about that. All right, so the next thing is we've got our little switch down here. So a little switch, we're just going to add kind of the same way, which this is kind of in the middle. So I think what I want to do is just pull it. And we're thinking about this in ways of maintaining the shape that we have of the model. Okay. So this kind of has two parts to it. We've got the switch and we've got the little indicator light that says whether the switch is on. We're going to extrude this inwards. So we're pulling this in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop Tool. We're going to insert an edge loop. We're going to scale it. Going to just create that little square pattern. We're going to do the same thing here with this one. We're going to scale and then square it off. We're going to take this and extrude it inward. And then just pull it in. Pull it up. This is that basic little shape that we have going on in there. Because technically this is like the switch that's going to let you know whether the light's on or off, right? So take that, do the same thing here. And if you want to, this could be a separate piece. If you want this to be like a functional piece when you're animating or working with the model, you can absolutely make it a functional piece. It depends on the depth of detail that you're trying to achieve. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to go Mesh Tools, Insert. We might do Offset. And this is where we're going to add some of this detail here. Mesh Tools, Offset Edge Loop. This is kind of just the best way to get these like direct details in here. Okay, pretty okay with that. I'm going to select every other face and then just extrude and taper it. I think that's actually probably going to be pretty okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that. You can do the internal ones as well. That's just going to be a lot more like geometry to work with, so I don't think I'm really going to bother with that. Oh, that's interesting. So we just ran into an issue here. My geometry for some reason is not flowing through. That's kind of strange. We'll have to fix that with edge cuts, but that's okay. Not a huge deal. We'll figure that out in a minute here. right, so let's just go ahead and cut this. We'll do the multi-cut tool. It doesn't, I don't think Maya knows that that's what's supposed to be happening here. Especially because we kind of generated this in a different way. It wasn't a standard like workflow. So you kind of have to tell Maya like, hey, this edge flow or this edge loop actually does flow through here. You're just ignoring it. Okay, so we're good there. No problems there. The only issue I have is that none of these are straight. So let's fix that real quick. Oh no, is that its own? Okay. Okay. We're straightened out now. We're good there. Nothing on that side. So cool. All right. So we have what is in essence that light. So the only other thing that we need to add now, tools, insert edge loop. So we're gonna kind of play with this a little bit. So we can see how that smooths. That's really good. I like that. We do want to support the inside of this. That way it's got that indent. Okay, so we're good there. We're gonna add our upper indent up here, or our upper support loop up here. I don't know how this attaches to that laser sight, but there's really no information on it, and I don't want to keep adding Picatinny rails down the line because that's just going to make this look awkward. So we're just going to assume it's part of this unit. Okay, so the next thing is edge tools, insert edge loop. So we do have to kind of add some support here, unfortunately. It's not really avoidable, but we're gonna avoid anything unnecessary. Escape free. Okay, it's looking all right. It still kind of matches. It's not exactly. It's a little bit square. We'll play with that a minute here. So now we have these. We need to add support to these. So mesh tools, insert edge loop. Let's make sure that we're going all the way through the model this time, and we are. So we have resolved that issue. We just want to support these little nubbins as much as possible. I don't know, what do we call them? Grip nubbins? Nubbins grips? Not sure what you would refer to these as. Probably just grip texture, who knows. Alright, so that's our switch. Switch is good. I'm going to support the interior of this model. I'm going to support the interior of this too. That already kind of has everything it needs. So if I smooth this now, we have our little switch and everything. So we're good there. So awesome. Now the big thing is can we kind of smooth that? And we actually can. We just can't really do a whole lot with it. We just want to pull these in as much as possible. I don't know what happened there. What did happen there? Oh, okay. I see what happened. Pulled that too far in. Okay. So we're good there. So we've got that nice support there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to ignore all of that. We're going to ignore all of this. 1. We're going to pull this up as far as we can. 3. That's going to give us that nice indent that we're looking for. And we just need to add this supporting geometry here. So mesh tools, insert edge loop. Again, I'm sorry if you can hear the bird. He has decided that he wants to sing today. And there is no stopping a singing bird, if you've ever tried. So he's just gonna do him. And of course he stops. All right, so cool. All right, we've got what we need really. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. We're gonna add one here. I'm hoping that doesn't derail that too badly. It did. So here's what we're gonna do. Same process. We're gonna pull this all the way through and just try to alleviate that squareness without trashing the model. Okay. That gives you that nice kind of curved inlet look on both sides, thankfully. So cool, we're good there. Next thing that we need to look at is we do have these little square indents up here. Honestly, not too sure I even want to deal with those, but I'm going to add them anyway. Question is how do I want to add them? Especially because my switch is actually too far in. Okay, so the issue is I've made my switch a little bit too long. Judging by, it's actually just too far forward. So we're going to take these vertex, we're going to shift it forward a bit. Not super worried with like destroying that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a face. I take all of these faces. I'm going to go to mesh. I'm going to go, edit mesh and extract them. I'm going to slightly pull them off. And then I'm going to take these vertex. I'm going to pull them back. I'm going to take this edge. And I'm going to give myself just a little bit more geometry here to work with so I can get those little indents in. And then I'm just going to reattach this. So that's one of the things to remember is if you've made a mistake, it's not necessarily too late to fix. Mesh tools, combine. You have to think about it in a way that's going to actually make it functionally work for you. Okay. So we're good there. That's reattached. It's all one piece again. The world is happy. Okay, so mesh tools, insert edge loop. We're gonna go boom, boom. And then if I add this, what does this do? It goes all the way across. It doesn't really destroy anything. So I'm gonna do it. Now I'm gonna take this, and maybe this one. Yep. Okay. We're gonna go and just scale these in, and these are like little just square divots. I don't really know what they are. They look like they have something to them. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go boom and scale it. And I think that's gonna pretty much match what they are. I don't really know. Insert edge loop. I'm gonna support them in every direction except for across the model, because I don't know if that's actually gonna. Well, okay, so it's okay to do up top. Just don't want to affect anything down here, and that's the question: is that gonna affect anything down here? So we're gonna see if this just lets me do it this way. Yeah, I did that. Okay. And it kind of does, honestly. So I'm not gonna stress about that. It doesn't need to be perfect. However, what really sucks is I just realized I forgot to do it on the other side. So the other side is barren. So there is an easy / annoying fix for that. I'm going to select all of these with shift arrow. That did something really funky that I don't like. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this easier. Let's do it this way. What I'm going to do is just go over into my top view. Select all these faces. That's pretty... no, I need more. We're going to delete those. And then we're going to... I think I can mirror this. Mesh. Let's try mirroring it. Yeah, that works. Okay, cool. It's all one combined piece. So you can just mirror that across. It's okay if you forgot like I did. There is an issue there somehow. I don't know what happened there. Oh, it just... looks like it didn't merge across entirely. So that's okay. Just go through and make sure everything linked up the way it was supposed to. It's probably not going to because it's an odd mirror. So I wouldn't be super surprised if there was an issue like this. But still saves you from having to go through and like redo that on the other side and have it not be the same shape. That's also mesh tools, edit mesh, delete edge vertex. I don't know what that's for. Whoa, that belongs to something. But what? I don't know. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. That's merged across. We're good for the most part. Vertex. This belongs there. Yeah, cool. All right, good to go. That solves that problem. That's on that side now. We just got to do the back. It's gonna be the same process. So we just need to establish which chunk we need to go to. Face. What the hell? Face. Thank you. I think right to there. Oh, it's actually too far over. Okay, so right there. That's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. We'll delete that. Okay. Same process. Mesh tools. Edit mesh. Go to mesh. Sorry, mirror. All right. We'll smooth it. And then we'll fix it. I like to do this from the inside. I just feel like you can see the verts better. And then the nice thing is these kind of like point for you. They show you like, hey, this is what you're missing. So you'll just follow that kind of like theoretical arrow that's kind of showing you where your problem is until it lines up perfectly and just doesn't have any issues anymore. I don't know what this extra little nub is out here in the boonies, but you know, it's okay. The last thing I want to do is just make sure, okay, so the front faces did actually mirror across, so we're good there. So now we've got it. We're good. It looks good from a distance and from up close. And then the last three things we need to add are the lens, the battery cap, which is what I assume that is, and then whatever that little thing is. So we're gonna do the same process. Go to the front of this thing. We're gonna grab these faces. All these faces. And we're gonna go to mesh, edit mesh, circularize. And this is going to be really funky. It's not going to look amazing, but it's okay. We're going to extrude it. And then this just has some like basic rings on it. So what I'm going to do is, because if you look at a flashlight, it's got like its little focusing lens. Remember that your scale's probably going to act kind of funky, so just be aware of that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is just kind of pull that, stop it. Pull that out. And we'll do one more. Just pull it out to create the glass lens that we have going on there. And then the rest of this is just mesh tools, insert edge loop. We're going to add what looks like a divot here. This one's going to be kind of a solid divot, like a screw area. And then there's two other divots. That are just more inset. We're going to grab those, pull them in, kind of just scale them in. They will smooth out a little bit when we actually smooth the model. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. Just give the support here that we need. Make sure you're supporting against the model as well. I don't know if I necessarily need that there, but I'm going to add it anyway. And then smooth. Should see no issues there, no difference. We've got that nice little kind of divot going on, and we're good. So that's our little flashlight module. The last thing we need to look at is this little battery cap back here. We're going to follow the same process. We're just going to grab a bunch of faces back here because it doesn't really matter what we do. We're going to go edit mesh, circularize. It's going to be funky looking. Try to straighten it out as best as possible. And then what we want to do is move it up and make it as large as possible. Okay. And then this guy does something kind of weird. It's got like a little thing. And then if we go boom, go out again, it's gonna kind of turn to a cap of sorts. And then we're going to pull this out. And then just pull that in. Okay, so there's our little battery cap of whatever. And then if you ever look at these, they have like a screw, like a little Phillips or like a flathead type deal. So let's just do this, do this, do this, and then I'm gonna just extrude this. And then we'll scale and just pull that in. Cool. So mesh tools, insert edge loop, support it. You know, a lot of this is really repetitive work, but in the end, you get the detail that you were looking for. And I'm pretty happy with the way this is turning out so far. I don't have any concerns with it, really. And there we go. So we've got our little keyhole that you would use to unscrew the battery cap. So that's there. And then the only other thing I'm seeing here that I don't really like is there's no support there. So mesh tools, insert edge loop, we're going to add some support here. And there we go. That way it's not curving in as much as it was. All right. And then we just need to file, save scene, because we need to save. And then we've got one last little component here, which is whatever the hell this is. It looks like some sort of button. I don't really know though. So we're going to add that detail just because it's there. One thing you can do, if you want to, you can hold tab and you can paint your selection. I don't use it too often because I kind of forget it exists. But yeah, circularize, super important tool, which is acting horrendous right now. Probably because we have so many faces in here. I'm gonna just try to scale that and make that look as good as possible. Okay. That looks awful. Yeah, not a huge fan of the way this turned out. I'm gonna try to clean this up as best as possible. Some of these will not look amazing. It will not be perfect, but just clean up your mesh as much as you can. That way you're not stressing about it later down the road. Because you will stress about it. And what is this? Okay, so those are still quads. As long as everything's a quad though, you should be okay. In the end, it's not going to really look that much different down here. So we're going to, what is this? Okay, so it's got one ring and then it just kind of tapers off. Right? Yeah, and it just hangs a little bit lower. And then it seems to have like a button. So I don't really know what to do with it, other than to give it a little bit of a divot. Yeah, we'll call it good there. Not super concerned. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. Add this little ring here. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. Crazy to think that, like many people, I used to circularize things myself, like with a cylinder. I would just bring a cylinder in and try to match everything. That tool has literally saved me so much time, and I didn't know it existed for the longest time. So, you know, one of those things, like, I'm still learning just as much as those of you modeling with me right now are learning as well. So it's just a process. We all go through it, and we learn. That, keep it 3. Okay, does that look the best? Absolutely not. Whoa. What happened there that's not over here? Is there support or something I'm missing? I think I'm missing something here. This can be problematic sometimes. So obviously we're missing something that we shouldn't be missing. And I think I see where it is. Yeah, there's a support line going through there that's not going through on this side. Or it is, and it just needs to be moved up. I don't know. Okay. I had to think about that for a second. Okay, so that's much better. We do need an additional support line through here somewhere. Probably this. Whoa. That's funky. Know why it's doing that. Okay. Okay. We're good there. We do have some weird pinching here that we're gonna have to look at when we get back to this. And then, of course, there's also we're missing a support line there because we moved it so far back. So I think what we'll do is we'll slide this forward because we're not super concerned about that portion. It still maintains that shape, but it gives us that sharpness that we're looking for. Less of an issue here. So that's good. There will be some cleanup here that we'll have to do, but overall looking pretty solid. It looks like that last edge loop did add a divot. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of that, but we can kind of adjust that later. Not a huge deal. And then if we do show isolate view selected, okay, we have both of our units. And then the only other thing I'm seeing here is that I want the laser sight to just hang over ever so slightly from the pistol. Okay, that's better. Okay, so we have that whole unit. We're good there. Looking pretty solid. The last thing we need to add is the slide pin and the slide unlock. All right, so we're on the last portion of this build, and honestly, it's gonna be super simple. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a new cube. We're gonna just go change the subdivision on it, move it up here. It needs to be outside the pistol, kind of shaped funky like that. I'm making this a separate part just because I don't want to add it into the geometry. It's got a lot of edge loops going across it that I just don't want running through the model. So this is one of those instances where I will make it a separate piece. And here's what we're modeling. So we're gonna do this guy, vertex, we're gonna pull this down. Okay, there's that. We're gonna focus. And then the way these buttons usually work, if you look at them, they're usually kind of curved. They have like a slant to them. Not really that much of one, but enough of one. And we'll just kind of mesh that into the model. Bridge, we're gonna flatten that down. Okay, so there's that button. And then you notice it's got a ton of edge loops running through it. So we're gonna do an offset edge loop tool. We're gonna just kind of add a bunch of these. Trying to keep them even. They don't need to be perfect by any means. And then you'll have that one in the middle. Okay, so easiest way to do this, just grab every other one. Kind of the same way we did the button or the switch, and just pull and scale. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Pull and scale. Okay, cool. So we got our little button there. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. We're gonna support it. Support it. Give that support. Give that support. And then same thing down the line. Just quick and dirty. This does not have to be the most accurate thing. And when you get to 3D printing this, you're just going to combine this with the model anyway, so I wouldn't stress it. If you're doing something a little bit more, if you're trying to turn this into more like an actionable item, this isn't really a tutorial based for that, but it's totally something you can do. So you can really go through and like actually model the mechanisms and how this would actually function and the hole that it would fit into, everything like that. But me, I'm not super worried about that right now. So there's that. We're good. The only thing is it's not curving the way we want it to. So I'm gonna go vertex. All right, so the only thing we have is it's not curving. So we're going to take this, pull this inwards, boom. Take that, pull that inwards. And you can just make these adjustments really easily on the fly. Shouldn't do too much damage to the model, if any. And it really didn't. And we can just take this, delete these faces. And then we're going to just go to mesh, mirror, mesh, mirror. In the X direction, apply. There we go, positive in the X direction, close, and 3. There's our little slide unlock button. which matches almost perfectly. It's a little large, so we'll just move that inwards a bit. Okay, cool. We're good there. Looks good. Looks good. I'm happy with it. Okay, so last thing is this guy. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna add another box. The reason we're adding a box is because we're gonna circularize and just pull the pin through. I don't want to deal with like trying to make a cylinder into a box. It's a lot easier to make a box into a box-like shape and then worry about a cylinder later. So we're gonna move this close to the body of the pistol. Try to just adjust it the way we need to. Keep it out a bit. It needs to sit right about there. I think we're looking at this properly. Yeah, it kind of sits right above that portion. In fact, I'm looking at this and that actually needs to be lowered a little bit. So we're gonna take the pistol grip itself, just pull these verts down a little bit. That way we're not interfering too much with this. And then now we can just place that there. So same thing, we're just gonna pull this out. And then the cool thing is we can just kind of rotate and just build this basic shape up. So what we're gonna do is pull this here, pull that there, and pull this here. The big part of this is going to be actually building that out. So mesh tools, insert edge loop. Oh. Okay, mesh tools, insert edge loop. So we're gonna go boom, boom, and boom. And we're gonna start just trying to build this out a little bit. Pull this up. These, in the end, kind of have to match up with this hole anyway, so. Mesh tools, insert edge loop tool. That's only gonna go there, which means I need to go here and here to create some geometry there. Trying to match this concept piece as much as possible. But you can see it's not looking perfect. And it probably won't because I'm trying to like match something that doesn't necessarily exist. Okay. How's that look? That's actually okay. That's really not bad. Okay, so show, isolate, view selected. Nope. Okay, show, isolate, view selected. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all of these faces on the back here and we're gonna circularize them. This is going to, honestly, here, let's do this. We're gonna extrude them inward. Pull them in, mesh tool. And now we're going to circularize it. Just because I don't want to deal with trying to adjust that. It's going to be a mess. And then extrude. Turn off isolate select and pull this all the way through. Okay, so we're going to lift this up. That's where that fits. That's looking pretty good. Now we can just do some general detailing. So usually when these pop through, they are just like a little pin. They kind of cap off. So that's what we're gonna do there. And if I look at the concept art, this one kind of has like a wing set up. So we're gonna pull this up and in. And then we're gonna match these verts to it as best as possible, just so it doesn't get all screwy. Cool. I mean, honestly, it's a super simple shape. Doesn't really require much to it. It does kind of extrude, so we're gonna do that real quick. Mesh tools, insert edge loop tool. We're gonna pop that there. And then we'll just take these and extrude them out a bit. just straight. And we'll take those faces that we just extruded, flatten them, and then again, just twist it a little bit. This way we get that nice kind of flip. And then I think it's just honestly a little too thick. So I'm gonna just thin it out a little bit. I was gonna say that probably pulled the pin through a little bit. So vertex, we'll take that, we'll pull this out again. Just match it up as best as we can. Right there is good. Okay, so show, isolate, view selected. So let's look at this. So mesh tools, insert edge loop, we're gonna just add our supports to it. And this one's just kind of one of those quick and dirty models. I'm not super stressed about it looking incredible because it's such a minor piece that I don't really want to worry too much about it. Yeah, show, isolate, view selected. Awesome. Perfect. And there we are. That's it. That is the pistol. The pistol is done. We have modeled it. We are ready to go into the cleanup phase, which is going to be tedious. I want to warn you, like when you get to this phase, you're going to spend a lot of time just looking at it and correcting issues that you may have created or you find that you don't like. There will be a lot of working, but I think it's going to be good. It's going to make for probably a longer tutorial, but it is an important stage in the process. Right now, we have a we have a really good model, but when you turn off the wireframe, you can see we have pinching all over the place. So that's going to be something we really work on refining and cleaning up, is this pinching, and that'll be the next part of this series. But for now, the pistol is done. It's modeled out. We have all of our pins. We have all of our little gadgets and attachments and everything. We've added a couple of new things with the Picatinny rail, and quite honestly, this thing is just starting to look really awesome. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. Remember, these tutorials take a lot of work and a lot of my time. If you would, please subscribe, like the video, share the video if you'd like to, and I'll see you all in the next one.